there's been an explosive amount of buzz around the drugs Ozempic and Wegovy.
There's a promising new weight loss drug that's getting a lot of attention, and not just because of its test results.
Yeah, the medication could become the best-selling drug, get this, of all time.
Medication set to become the best-selling drug of all time.
There are tens of thousands of drugs in the market, so I'm curious, and this is what we're going to look into today. How does one become potentially the best-selling of all time? Yes, today we are talking about Hollywood's worst-kept secret, Ozempic, along with Wegovy and a host of other rival products that are now all part of a new class of drugs called GLP-1 Receptor Agonists, which could collectively become the best-selling drug of all time. Analysts think the market for GLP-1 drugs could reach $150 billion by 2031. For context, the largest pharmaceutical company in the US today, Pfizer, made about $100 billion last year. So we're talking about a drug that is 1.5 times more lucrative than the largest pharmaceutical company today. So where do we start? Can't have a profitable drug without patients, without a disease that's making a lot of people sick. Well, how about obesity? We've all seen posts online like this one, pictures of people at the beach in the 60s or 70s, all skinny or normal size, and then fast forward to today, not so skinny. According to the World Obesity Federation, by 2035, so in about 10 years from now, over 4 billion people, that's more than half of the world's population, will be either overweight or obese. Question that comes to my mind is obesity itself a disease? Maybe, but as I found out, there are actually definitely ways to make it one, at least in the eyes of the public. In 2021, Novo Nordisk, the company that makes Ozempic, funded a new diabetes and obesity research hub at MIT and Harvard to the tune of $47.5 million. I don't know, you tell me, a pharmaceutical manufacturer directly funding elite academic research institutions who are supposed to be in search of the truth. Is or is that not a conflict of interest? And lo and behold, this article is from March 24th, 2023. In the eyes of Harvard Medical School, obesity is now officially a genetic disease. Quote, your genetic makeup plays a significant role in your chances of becoming obese. I think that's still up for debate, and to be clear, no scientist or researcher, to my knowledge, has come out and said that because my obesity study or grant was funded by Novo Nordisk, I now have to say X, Y, or Z. But, all right, what's next?
Good evening from our CBS newsroom in New York.
Well, we need trustworthy looking people to spread the message. Earlier this year, CBS 60 Minutes aired a segment about the obesity epidemic ravaging the United States.
It's a brain disease.
It is?
It's a brain disease. The number one cause of obesity is genetics. That means if you are born to parents that have obesity, you have a 50 to 85% likelihood of having the disease yourself, even with optimal diet, exercise, sleep management, stress management.
Convincing and authoritative sounding, no doubt, but also paid for. The entirety of the investigative segment, investigative in quotations, was sponsored by Novo Nordisk, the maker of the drug. Not only that, the only two doctors featured in the segment, Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford and Dr. Caroline Apovian, are both paid consultants for Novo Nordisk. Biased? Probably. But the further I dug, the more I found out what can be paid for. The pharmaceutical industry finances about 75% of the FDA's drug division. A lot of you might already know this. But this essentially means that the regulatory body in charge of approving or rejecting new drugs or new indications for existing drugs is directly funded by the companies they are meant to be regulating. Earlier this year, the FDA expanded the potential patient pool of weight loss drugs by approving Wegovy for obesity in teens 12 and up. Out of curiosity, I looked up how much Wegovy costs, and it's over $1,000 a month. And because you're not supposed to stop taking the drug, that's $16,000 per year per patient for decades upon decades. Once again, these are all just observations of facts. There's no smoking gun, so to speak, but I don't think anybody can ignore all of these financial connections and incentives, money given to universities and researchers, paying doctors to be consultants, sponsoring advertising segments disguised as investigative pieces, and funding the regulatory body that is in charge of drug approval. But let's go back to this issue of price. The drug is expensive. It's $1,000 per month. So cost, I imagine, could be a prohibitive barrier for many potential patients.
Chica, is it being mass prescribed?
Not at all. A lot of insurance companies aren't even covering it yet.
There you go. That's a Harvard-educated doctor, works at Mass General, can't prescribe the drug en masse because the insurance won't cover it. You can go a couple of ways here. You can lower the price to make it more affordable and accessible, or probably not surprising at this point, but apparently you can pay, or companies can pay pennies on the dollar to potentially remove this barrier without lowering their prices. According to recent reporting, Novo Nordisk spent a total of $4.6 million on lobbying the federal government last year and $1.3 million in the first 3 months of 2023. The company and its 6 outside lobbying firms listed lobbying on obesity medicine coverage this year in disclosure forms. The goal, lobbying for legislation that would allow Medicare to pay for obesity drugs, with the idea that once Medicare covers drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, other insurers will follow Medicare's lead. So I don't know if any of this is shocking at this point, but it appears that a part of the business model for Big Pharma is to force taxpayers to help subsidize their profits. And of course, no one can dispute that obesity is a real issue afflicting, at this point, almost half of the world's population. But I don't think we can ignore the fact that there are millions of dollars at work seemingly with the goal of shifting the narrative towards a solution for obesity that is based on pharmaceutical intervention, which will generate hundreds of billions of dollars in profit, versus diet, nutrition, and exercise. Some money to be made there for sure, but much less. I can't help but make the observation that this reminds me of another recent situation that we all went through together. I know that was a bit of a third rail issue for a lot of folks, but we're talking about today a dystopian scenario in the not too distant future where doctors could be prescribing en masse a drug to children as young as 12, a lifetime drug that's meant to cure obesity, but actually, from what I found out, has a host of other serious side effects that have yet to be fully understood. For example, some doctors are concerned that Ozempic could actually make you fatter.
Almost without exception, every patient we've put on this drug has lost muscle mass, and they have lost it at a rate that alarms me. So it's not uncommon if you weigh 200 pounds and you go down to 180 pounds that you're going to lose some muscle, some fat. But let's be clear. If you lost 10 pounds of muscle and 10 pounds of fat to go from 180 to 200, would that be good? Well, only if you were more than 50% body fat at the outset. Otherwise, you've disproportionately lost muscle to fat. In fact, you've gotten fatter as you've lost weight.
That's ironic, but not only that, other studies I found show concerning correlations with changes in gut microbiome, which could have an impact on our metabolic health. Ozempic and other weight loss drugs are also under investigation in the European Union for risk of suicidal thoughts. I know none of these examples are necessarily conclusive at this point. It's just an investigation, innocent until proven guilty, right? But if we look back in history, not a great track record for other so-called miracle weight loss drugs. In the 90s, Fen-Phen was a supposed miracle for weight loss until it was linked to heart valve damage. More recently, another drug, lorcaserin, was touted as a game changer until it was found out to cause cancer. I'm not saying that the boon of weight loss drugs today will end the same way as it did in years past, but what I can certainly say is that the intricate interplay of financial interests, academic research, aggressive lobbying, and strategic advertising reveals an absolute masterclass in how to mint billions upon billions from a drug. My point is, it's not just about developing a groundbreaking drug anymore. It's about funding the mechanisms by which narratives are created, disseminated, and controlled, sometimes seemingly at the detriment of public health. That's all from me this week. This video, from my perspective, is meant to show the value of curiosity, of learning, of research. I'm sure some of you out there are personally contemplating whether or not Ozempic is right for you. So please, what are your thoughts, personal experiences? Share them with us in the comment section below. If you found this video helpful and you want to spread this information, this message to others, please take a second to like this video, share it with your friends and family, subscribe, and of course, turn on that notification bell. As always, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.